Sitting by the Fire, a podcast on ancestral wisdom, medicine, heritage, and transformation by Anna Shoyom. Hello, everyone. It's very nice to see you again. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're joining us in this chat. And today, at Sitting by the Fire, my guest is Banta, my colleague from Ancestral Medicine Network. She's also a practitioner. Welcome, Banta. It's a joy to chat with you, as always. Maybe first, I'd like to ask you to introduce yourself to someone who may not know you. Where do you come from? Who are you?
Thank you so much for having me, Anna. I appreciate being here. I am currently in Western North Carolina, land in the United States, land of the Cherokee and Salagi peoples. And my own peoples are settler colonialists to North America from the United Kingdom, mostly Scotland and Ireland, also Northern France and the Netherlands. And I've spent most of my life as a psychotherapist until probably 7 years ago or so when I discovered Ancestral Lineage Healing. So, yeah.
What happened there? Have you stopped being a psychotherapist?
Almost entirely, but not quite. And it took some time. It was sort of a synchronistic moment. I had tea with a colleague who had recently completed the training to become a practitioner in this work, and just having a lovely conversation. And she reached across the table and grabbed my hand and said, "I need to tell you, I have never felt so resourced in my life." And I wanted to know, what are you talking about? I want that. I want what you're having, whatever that is. It sounds amazing. And she described what she had discovered in Ancestral Lineage Healing. And that got me activated in a long search through that whole process. And what's interesting is there were so many moments when I felt like I wasn't in charge of it. It was just, okay, now you must do this. Now you need to read this. Now you need to take that class online. And, one thing after another, as if my ancestors were taking me through the prerequisites of becoming a practitioner. So it was a process.
It's a process, yeah. And there is one curiosity that arises in me, is that for you, with all that experience that you had before meeting with ancestral medicine or ancestral lineage healing, what is it for you? How would you define it?
Well, I'll start just with the reminder that, many years ago, we who are therapists, science discovered, or what we've already long known, the science of epigenetics, that there is trauma that lives in our DNA that comes from multiple generations that came before us. And this is good to have that confirmed, because I think therapists all over the world have understood that people can do their personal work, they can move through their own lived experience, their own lived trauma, and still feel as if there's a cloud following them around that doesn't belong to them, right? And so, and it's nice to have the science that confirms that, but it didn't speak to, okay, now what do you do about it? And there are amazing therapeutic protocols out there now to help people. And there is an acknowledgement in some of them that we do have lineage burdens that we carry around with us. But I haven't seen any way of accessing the roots of those lineage burdens except through this process. So it has felt like the missing link. It feels a bit like a cross between a spiritual repair process and what was missing in psychotherapy. And as I said, there's great psychotherapy out there. So I don't know if people feel invited to do the ancestral lineage healing first, and then whatever remains is their work to do in therapy, or whether they go through their own therapeutic process, and then whatever remains, it belongs to the ancestors. So it's the ancestral work to do. Either
Yeah.
or, both and.
Like from both way, it looks like that you actually can get to something that, as they say today, it didn't start it with you. And this is a very powerful statement that you can arrive in therapy or psychotherapy, I think, like recognizing that actually you are the outcome of many other people who have come before you, and recognize that, okay, there is something that they have went through. This is epigenetics, all the surroundings, all the experiences that they lived, either if it's poverty, either if it's migration, forced migration, or whatever. So there are a lot of experiences that can shape how actually your physical body is going to react to all the situation that you're facing. Just like summarizing what epigenetics is in 2 sentences. And I do think, and I agree with you, that therapy is not everything. So it can go until certain depths, and then there is something that is missing. We can call it the spiritual link. I think I agree with you in that as well. That not necessarily needs to be something religious. It can be religious, I think, but I really love this depth in. I would call it the depths of the soul or the spiritual connection. And I was contemplating just today how in my childhood I went to some, actually there was like a 3 weeks camp. I really enjoyed to go as a small child from I was 8 until I was 16. So I'm this rare child that really enjoyed to be away from home. That's another story why, but I did. What happened is that we would play, and we would incorporate different kingdoms that you could come in whatever character. You could even die. And when you died, you have to spend 24 hours without speech. You could communicate with a sign language, and then you would come back in a different character. And then we would say that, oh, the mountain closed their eyes. Let's see what's the message of the mountain. And today I was preparing to talk to you in the morning. I was like, oh, so actually there were the other than human beings already in a way present in my life, even before I would have realized that they would have been not there. There would be something I would have missed greatly. And I know as I think back to that it's really a gift that I could go there, because it gave such a richness that could be something cool that, oh, you're crazy, you live in a dream world, or it could be maybe seeing what I think we see all over the world coming back today, that, okay, we are part of something a lot larger, something that we can't always see, but we have feeling to sense it, or some senses to capture it. What do you think about
glimpses into the other realms that most of us are not we're not educated to have access there, right? It's not really part of certainly it's not part of Western education. But those other realms are so rich, and the ancestors are part of that, are part of those other worlds. And, so I think a lot of people come into this work really trying to second guess themselves or believe, oh, that's just in my imagination.
Yeah.
I must be making that up. That can't possibly be real. Well, I think it's as real as what our mutual teacher, Daniel Forres, often says, is this real? This conversation we're having here? Is this a real conversation? Because it's just as real as this. Yeah.
We might be part of the matrix. Who knows?
That's right. That's right. Yes.
We are, but yeah, I don't know. But what I often get the question also, is this real? Yeah. And I say, yeah. Is it the same? Do you feel something in the body? That's where I always go to the body, because I think that there is a resonance in the body. There is something happening. For me, it was something suiting when I had the same questions. Am I making this up? Of course, knowing that also in therapy, I can make things up. and completely go crazy over that, even in the body. So sometimes that happens too. But coming back to the senses of the other realm and how can we get in touch with them? Why the ancestors? Why are they so important for you?
Oh, it's such a good question. I didn't know how important they were until I connected with them. Yeah. There's I'm sure it's a colonizer or patriarchy sort of value that one, if you need something done, you need to do it yourself. You shouldn't ask for help. You should be able to do all the things. And that's how I grew up. That's how I was educated. I was also, even though I was a therapist for many years and believed myself to be very intuitive as a therapist about what was going on with my clients and, family and friendships, I thought I was pretty intuitive about that. Turns out when I turned that mirror onto myself, I was much less trusting of what I saw. And so not only has this been a process of finding belonging with the ancestors, but it's also been a really important reclamation of that intuitive knowing, of a trust in that. And just what you were mentioning as we're saying, people who believe, is this real? Am I making it up? That reflects our distrust of what the body knows, of what our gut knows or our heart knows, that, oh no, this is very real. It's just as real as whatever math problem you're trying to solve, or, it's just as real as the material world, even often more real to me than that. So, yeah.
What does it makes it so real for you? How do you decipher that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, coming into connection with my people, with my mother's people, my father's people, my stepfather's people, um, there's something about it that underscores that we're all one in this. We're all together in this thing. I stand on their shoulders. I wouldn't be here were it not for them, and they have enormous wisdom and gifts to share if we are open to receiving them. And they're also really good helpers, really good guides. For one who always thought she didn't need any help, turns out they're really good helpers. So, and I don't have any living elders anymore. I'm of an age that, those ones have all passed. And so to have the ancestors often lovingly refer to me as, oh child, this, or, it's like, oh yes, okay, I do have elders. And they're very active and engaged in what's going on, and very grateful to have someone who's reached out to them. And I think it's a reciprocal connection. And I think that's something that we often miss, that they're just as much, it's not just we, the living, who benefit, but they very much benefit from our connection with them. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm kind of side contemplating on what you said by listening to you, hearing connection is one of the key words.
Mm-hmm.
Connection with elders who are receiving you with love and help. So there are the help also. And there is also this quality of connection that I'm hearing, that discovering that you are not alone, you belong, and that you can rely on someone or someones who are active in offering this help after that you have reclaimed your connection. So there is also like a very active step that we do. And if you're listening to this chat and you believe that it's very strange that we are speaking about deceased people as they were real, they are real for us. So I think this is the holding point or the entry point maybe that we can experience sometimes, that the unexplainable things, I think science haven't got there yet. But when we speak about, for instance, how indigenous societies, for instance, understanding mental health, illnesses, or we could say that the Western culture were diagnosticate with different things, putting like a sticky note on it, now categorize. There is a whole understanding that actually can bring it to a different spotlight, something which is not so judgmental, but rather opening up other possibilities.
Absolutely. Yes, we know of indigenous cultures that if someone is having what Westerners would call a mental health crisis and would send to a psychiatrist or send to a psychiatric hospital, other indigenous cultures will call a community meeting and they will sit with this person and surround them with care and tending and talk to them and bring in the spirit realm and bring in the ancestors into that. We Westerners would call it an intervention. I feel it's really more of a love-in of sorts. It's kind of like just a community care situation. And they are providing the care and they are figuring out what needs to happen to help this person, to support this person, without having to isolate or judge them. Because of course, every one of us has capacity to fall apart at any moment, right? I mean, we're not immune to that. So, but the community understands that and cares for their own.
It doesn't matter how many years we pass in therapy, I have to say, we still reclaim our ability to fall apart. I want to say,
yes.
Maybe that belongs to our humanity, that we are imperfect and we are here to try things, try to do our best, but sometimes it just makes mistakes, even with that. I think one deeply capturing point in this work of ancestral lineage healing, the way I learned also from Daniel Four, it's that I don't do the work. And there was so liberating. That was so liberating when I first met that. It was like, oh, okay. Thank you. Like, okay, here's my backpack. Thank you for carrying it for me for a bit. I've been trying to I've been trying to do so many things with it. And now the community care that you mentioned, and I think recognizing that we are two white women speaking about it, it's even more important for me because I haven't grown up with that community. I don't know about you, but I never had that. So even I have like a smaller family, or I consider them small, but there are a lot of family members I don't even know they exist, or I didn't know they exist until I was 20 something. So there is a deep rupture in that way already in between our living family or living communities. And so maybe to bring back the juiciness, I'm going to call it like this, of life, of celebration, of belonging, maybe we really need to find ways to connect what have been before.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Yes, I think that's important. And again, I encounter folks, I'm sure you do too, who really have a lot of, they begin maybe with curiosity, but there's a lot of really, what are you doing? What are you doing with these ancestors? What is this really about here? And that feels like a reflection of how limited our cultural context is, that we just live in this context where you have to be able to see it and touch it and feel it for it to be accepted as real and valuable, for it to have merit. And you and I were talking earlier before the recording about this book that has just come out that was put together by a group of the practitioners of ancestral lineage healing. And it's really our stories of how we came to this work. And we are all very different humans from very different backgrounds. And I think many of us are probably sharing the information about this new book with our families and friends and networks. And it's very interesting, the responses that one gets about this. It's like, oh, well, congratulations, I think. It's like, because they don't know what it is. And it's not a part of their education or their culture. Some of them are for sure spiritual people, so they believe in the unseen. They believe in the unseen, whether it's angels or deities or whatever. And these ancestors are certainly not deities, but I think one of the really amazing gifts of the connection with the ancestors is that we are family. So these are, no, they're not deities, but it's a very different, almost closer connection, because they've lived this human experience. They have a long-range perspective. They've experienced, I remember thinking this during COVID, they've experienced plagues and the like. They've experienced living conditions under really difficult leadership. For instance, they've just experienced they've lived through wars, they've lived through famines, they've lived through all kinds of things, and they have a lot to share with us about coping, but also they have a lot to share with us about holding all of that a bit more lightly. I imagine many of your clients, as many of mine, are hearing from their people, you need to dance more, you need to play more, you need to listen to more music, you need to get out into the woods.
Right? You need to doing and start being. That's many of the messages.
Yes.
An appreciation of small things like a flower, or just spending time with the loved ones. So sometimes that's the greatest gift that we can.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. It still sounds strange when I don't often say that, but I started to say that when I speak about ancestral medicine. Oh, well, we're going to connect with your deceased ones, with the dead people. That's what we do.
That's what we do. We talk to dead people.
Yeah.
But I think what is so helpful to remember is that there's nothing strange or mystical or weird about doing that. It's very much part of all of our traditions, if you go far enough back. That sort of staying in touch with, and it's a bit, I guess maybe it's not ancestor worship, but there is some reverence there, because, or respect, because they were our elders, and they have much to teach us. Yeah.
Just before I forget, can you say the name of the title of the book? I'm going to find it here below in the YouTube, but what is the title if someone is interested?
It's called Ancestral Wisdom, Sacred Stories of Contact, Healing, and Care. And it is available to access free online. I can send you that link. And we chose to do it that way to make it fully accessible. So, yeah.
That's so accessibility, very important. And I was thinking about how just capturing the thought that was flying away, which was around disconnection and connecting with the others. Yes. So again, I'm from the Western culture, growing up in Hungary, now living in Spain, Barcelona. There are very little recognition toward other people. So I think one of the difficulties is that there is like a optimum value of the fertile young body. And I want to say because this is, I think, what it is.
Mm.
But there is nothing that can replace the lived experience, I think. So even so, it's like we're having a deficit of wisdom in a way that we have the books, now we have AI that can advise us and so on. So technology is going really quicker than our mind can follow that. And I was just discussing with my partner yesterday, kind of testing an AI that can actually recognize emotions and speak to you. So it has emotions in the voice as they speak back to you. It's like we are in the area of Her. I don't know if you've seen the movie with Joaquin Phoenix. It's about an AI that can, that actually he falls in love with. So Her, the movie Her. And they're there. And it's been maybe 12 years that movie came out, or maybe 15. So it's like, it's huge steps and jumps for the evolution that we're not going to pose a stop. But we need those resources to fall back. And when we don't have our elders, or the elders are not capable of offering that support or that reliable continuation of heritage that can nourish who will come after us. I maybe ancestral medicine, or this approach of connecting or rediscovering what have been before us, maybe it can be something that can broaden our understanding and offer different stories instead of just one singular story, which can be very dangerous.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying. And also, yes, AI is valuable. The technology is valuable. But I think there's a very significant difference between information and wisdom, between information and perspective, between information and emotional intelligence. And those are only available to us in our human connections, or in our connections with the larger world, with our other than human kin, with other realms. Those are available to us there. They're not available. I can't, I mean, AI can tell me a lot, but I don't detect a level of wisdom there. There's a lot of information available, but there's not, I don't know, that sort of delicate combination of wisdom and perspective, and as you mentioned, lived experience and empathy. I don't know that we've built in empathy to AI yet, but just that human, and also we can have the same sort of connection with our other than human kin, and with the elements, with the natural world out there, with bodies of water and trees and plants and other creatures, all of that. Yeah.
I think they are just waiting to be recognized. I sometimes have this sense that there's a whole world out there that waits to be connected with. And there is so much responsibility once you connect. Have you had?
Well, I think that that's absolutely true, because so many times in so many sessions with clients in this ancestral work, when they first make a connection with an ancestral guide, with an ancient guide, I would say 80% of the time, the first response from the guide is, "We have waited so long. We are so glad you've come. Thank you for coming," right? And wouldn't the same response be available to us if we connected in the same way with the tree or the river or the mountain, or, the owl or the dolphin? Yes.
Yeah. Maybe in a way, in terms of Western cultural stickers, maybe it's a way to get more primitive. But I would put it in line with the simplicity of the Zen philosophy, or really coming back to what really is important, because in the bottom line, what is important is relationship, 100% relationship. If we have it, it's good. If we don't have it, it traumatizes us. If we don't have it in the way that we need it, it traumatizes us.
Absolutely.
So coming back to relationship with the world around us, with the unseen realm, the ancestors, the earth, all those beings that exist in the earth, visible and invisible, plants, nature. Maybe that's really something that can contribute for us to be able to feel that we belong, and that through that belonging we can heal ourselves if we can heal them as well.
Mm-hmm. And there's something differently healing. If you have a lot of trauma in your early life and you spend a lot of time in therapy over many years, and you still are very wary of relationship, of closeness with another human, those folks often have very good connections with their other than human kin, but also they can come to have a deep sense of belonging with their ancestors who are family. They're a part of their family. But the ancestors, the wise and well ones, are not going to be toxic to them. They are not going to be harmful to them. They're going to have good boundaries, and they're just going to love them. And there's that right there is enormously healing when they did not have that in their own living family. The possibility is big.
This is like a mutual respect that you're pointing to. So it's really like you come to this space with the respect and reverence and honoring, of course, also with our kind and gentle request toward them to help the healing happen and support us. But there is also like a recognition from their side that I think is really important to underline, that you are seen for who you are, not what you believe about yourself, because that's deeply, deeply healing. So I think when you've experienced difficult life situations, exploitation, traumas, on many different levels, when you have someone telling you that you're good enough as you are, and we love you, and you're beautiful, it's just melting the heart. And a very deep level, it is very deep healing. It's good medicine, I think.
It's good medicine. I get why we call this ancestral medicine in that way, because there's very good medicine there. Different from a prescription or a dosing out of a bottle. Or yes, it's just good medicine.
Yeah. What if you have any current, that's, I don't know, that's sometimes I think times and situations, whatever happens in the world, bring us certain types of topics that surface more. Is there any current presently that is very or in
Yes, there's a current present. There's a point in this ancestral lineage healing process, as you know, where we ask our people to share something about what were the troubles and challenges of this lineage, and also what are the special gifts and blessings, even superpowers of this lineage before they encountered all those troubles. And then we invite the client to embody some of those blessings. And one of the currents that seems very alive in this moment is some of the blessings involve courage. They involve warrior energy, but not the kind of warrior energy that includes a shield and a sword and a suit of armor, but rather more the love warrior sort of energy that can potentially be a healing element in what's happening in the world. There are a lot of questions from the clients to their ancestors. How do I deal with what's happening in the world? The United States is in a bit of a state of chaos, I can say that. And there are a lot of questions about how do I move in these times? What is my purpose here? What is my role? What is in my lane? What is not in my lane? And I will say that one of the incredible gifts of the ancestors is to help us stay in our lane and know what we are meant to be doing here. And that's not something that any living human can tell us. So, but the ancestors seem to have some good insights around that. So this is one of the times when those particular questions seem very alive. What am I supposed to be doing here? I'm just one person. What can I possibly do to impact or create positive change? And they have a lot to say about that. So,
Absolutely. And it's also valid for the personal questions if I'm living in fear. I had many of those recently, also with my clients from the US and the word as well in Europe as well. Like, what do I do to stay true to myself and to be okay? Because that's so important, I think. Also in the therapist practice that I do, we do a lot of resourcing. And resourcing involves like, what is this little piece of earth where I can ground myself, or how can I find the grounding that will hold me if I use the power of falling apart? That's also very valid, that we said, and we need that chaos as well sometimes. So also it's a very valid answer or support for safety, personal safety in a way.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that. There's a lot of fear and questions about fear and how can I not be so afraid? And what is going to be asked of me? How am I going to be asked to stand and uphold my own values and the values, how am I going to be able to protect my family, my friends, my community? A lot of questions of that. And how to stay grounded and centered and clear in the face of all of that. So, yeah.
It's good to know that we've all, literally all, coming from lineages who have been there and done that, because
Yes.
they would
Yes.
there and done that, we wouldn't have been here because they wouldn't have survived. So that's already a beautiful gift, I think, and to be able to wake up to that gift of life and taking back sacredness on every phases of life. I think this is also one of the gifts that we can take back.
It's also, I think I said before, just the ancestral perspective is so helpful. I had a client first thing in the morning, the day after the US elections in November. And it just happened that she lives in the United States, but all of her lineages, every one of them as far back as she can trace, they're all from Italy. They're all Italian. And she has done all of her work with her 4 primary lines, and she wanted to bring the question to her people that day: how am I meant to handle this? This is frightening to me. I don't know. She's an older woman. How am I meant to be in this situation and not be afraid? And they said to her, "Oh, my dear, we lived for generations under Mussolini, for instance. That was their personal perspective. And we lived through, all of the kinds of trials that those times required of us. And yet here you are still here." And there was just a sense of an exhale that, oh, of course, we humans, we are living in such this little fragment of time here, this little tiny snapshot of time in the big picture of life and of life on this earth, just a tiny little moment. And they basically told her, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay here. And there's something settling in that message for her, like, oh, okay, I don't have to get all activated and anxious. I just need to keep doing what they've asked me to do and put one foot in front of the other and stay in my lane. And yeah.
I think that brings back to the embodied experience of living life, like really not having a digital or paper written agenda planned like
Yeah.
6 months ahead or so, because we don't know what's going to happen. And including myself, I know my agenda is like that. We like to live in this perception of, oh, we're going to do this and then that and then that and then that, and then something happens and you're like, oh wow, what's happening now? That's the important. Now, like, like in some mindfulness practices or meditation, like, okay, you got to be present to find a footing where you're going to put your feet and then how you're going to walk, and just watch down, because maybe you have to leap, maybe you have to climb stairs. You don't know.
Being in the moment and being in relational connection, in relationship with your people, your creatures, your surroundings, that feels like the what is most available to us right here and now, right?
I love what you say. And it sounds like even a beautiful rounding, getting closer to closing to this chat, like being connected. That's something that's part of the gifts that we can resource from. That's something that we can rediscover and come back to relationship, come back to living relationship where there is a reciprocity, when there is a mutual bidirectional exchange.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. Yes.
What would be, if there is anything else that you feel would be good to mention or to leave it here today for this space and for when this episode gets released? I don't have the date yet.
I think I would want, for folks who don't know about this work or are skeptical of it, I would just invite them to be curious and open and maybe step in just a bit to see what might be possible for them. Because as we said earlier, this does not require any special psychic or I don't know, psychic or energy healer type energies. Anyone can come into connection with their wise and well ancestors. And, they also have, while it is enormously valuable for personal and family healing, they also have that long range perspective. Our personal ancestors don't just belong to us, right? They are related to many other people. And so when we move through the healing work with our lineage ancestors, that impacts many other people, living and dead. It impacts the culture. It impacts the culture that we live in hopefully positive, reparative ways. Yeah.
It definitely includes the ripple effect, because if we go back just 8 generations, that already like maybe
Yes.
1,000 people. Just imagine back to the 800th generation and even further back in time. I
So
know.
like you said, the ripple effect, it's much bigger than we imagine. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love it. Yeah. Thank you so much to be here with me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate our conversation. So good.
And go and download the book, which it's titled as?
Its title is Ancestral Wisdom, Sacred Stories of Contact, Healing, and Care.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for all the authors as well who contributed to that work.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. See you next time.